I was staring at the motel ceiling fan, lights off, heart pounding like it was about to split my ribs apart, when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. One buzz, then another, then 5 more in a row. I rolled over, wiped the sweat off my face, and unlocked the screen, expecting maybe a work email or some late spam from Amazon. Instead, I saw her name. Rachel, my wife. She had texted me by mistake. And it wasn't just a message, it was the wrong message sent to the wrong man at the worst possible time. Ugh, I swear Brad couldn't fix a toaster with YouTube and 3 guys helping him. He's a child. A child. I need someone who knows how to take charge. How to handle everything. Not ask if engine oil is urgent, loudly crying face. You know what Jake did yesterday? Changed my tire, grilled steaks, then handled me like a real man, smirking face fire. It hit like an electric shock straight to the spine. I couldn't breathe for a second. I just stared at that text, trying to convince myself I read it wrong. Trying to believe it was a joke. An autocorrect. A mistake. But my name was right there. And so was Jake's. Jake the gym trainer. Jake the guy who charged protein shakes on my wife's Apple Pay. Jake who I once gave Super Bowl tickets to when his cousin died and he said he needed a break. My mouth went dry. There were 3 more messages after that one. A numbered list. She actually took the time to number them. Things Brad can't do, and Jake does like a damn king, drooling face. Change a tire. Grill a steak without Googling it. Fight for me. Fix the garbage disposal. Take charge in bed, LMAO. Talk to my mom without sweating. Kill a spider. Be a man. There were 17 items. 17 bullets, each one a little stab right in the side of my gut. I read them twice. Then a third time. I didn't even feel the tears well up. I just felt heat crawling up the back of my neck, and my jaw tightened like it was bolted shut. The room around me suddenly felt too quiet. The fan buzzed overhead, and outside the motel window, I could hear a distant diesel engine rumbling on the interstate. Somewhere, a dog barked once and fell silent. But inside, nothing. Just the sound of my own breath and the buzz of a man turning into something unrecognizable. Rachel was back home, for hours away. Said she needed a break to think. Said she booked a solo cabin retreat with no signal, wanted to get her mental health in order. I paid for that trip. I packed her car with snacks. I hugged her goodbye and told her, come back stronger. But she wasn't off meditating. She was screwing Jake. And now, because the universe likes irony, she sent the evidence directly to me. I didn't respond. I didn't call. I didn't yell. I didn't do anything, not yet. I sat there and stared at the ceiling for another hour, unmoving. Something was cracking inside me. Something old and naive. The version of me that believed in us. That believed in her. That believed in loyalty, vows, and working through things. That version of me was dying. And in its place, something new was breathing. Not rage. Not revenge. Something colder. Something patient. Something deadly quiet. I opened a drawer in the nightstand and pulled out the worn black folder I kept with me on the road. Inside were paper copies of all 17 credit accounts she had opened using my income. Cards she applied for. Lines of credit she maxed out buying skincare, dumb yoga gear, and boutique wine. She never once paid them down herself. She thought I was a child? Let's see how mature she feels when she walks into Sephora and her cards declined. I pulled out my laptop, connected to the motel Wi-Fi, and typed in the first login. Citibank. Her name. Her social. My income. I clicked close account. 1 down. 16 to go. But I wasn't doing this out of pettiness. No. This wasn't rage-fueled revenge. This was surgical. I was erasing her comfort. Not her body. Her illusion. Her fake little, independent lifestyle that was propped up entirely on my credit. My name. My work. My silence. She said I wasn't man enough? She was about to learn what a real man does when he's pushed to the edge quietly. By 4 a.m., I had closed 11 of the 17. The rest required a phone call, which I'd make the next morning. But first, I left her a message. Just one. Cold. Clean. No yelling. Hey, Ratch. Got your text. Looks like it wasn't for me. Don't worry, though. I'm finally doing some manly things. Starting with shutting off every card you ever opened in my name. Oh, and Jake better have gas money. Love you. I didn't block her. I wanted her to read it. Then feel it. My phone buzzed again 30 minutes later. She called. I let it ring. She called again. I put the phone face down and went to sleep. It was the best sleep I'd had in months. The next morning, I woke up to 21 missed calls. All from Rachel. 2 from an unknown number. I could guess who that was. 1 voicemail from her mother. I didn't listen to any of them. Instead, I stretched, breathed in, brushed my teeth like it was any other Tuesday. I stared at myself in the mirror longer than usual, noticing things I hadn't in a while. The tired bags under my eyes. The beard stubble she always said made me look lazy. The scar above my left eyebrow from when I fell off my bike at 12. She used to kiss that scar when she thought I was brave. Now she called me a child. After breakfast, I sat down with my laptop and began the second round of erasure. American Express was trickier. They wanted a voice confirmation. So I dialed in, gave them her info, and when the rep asked why I wanted to close the account, I said, because the cardholder committed fraud, used my income, maxed it out, then ran off with a personal trainer. The rep went silent for a moment, then said, "Understood, sir." Account closed. One by one, I watched her little empire collapse. The visa that bought her girl's trip to Miami? Gone. The Discover she used for Amazon Prime? Nuked. The Best Buy card that Jake used to buy that stupid 65-inch TV for movie nights? Dust. By noon, it was all gone. 17 accounts. 0 balances. 0 credit. 17 reminders to her that she'd never earned any of it. I still hadn't answered a single one of her messages. But she was relentless. The texts turned from confused to panicked. "Brad, what are you doing? Why is my card getting declined at the gas station? Please answer. Call me. Are you closing the cards? Are you serious? You don't understand what's going on. I needed that weekend. Jake was helping me process. It's not what you think. Brad, please. I'm scared." Scared? That was new. That was good. But I wasn't going to let her off the hook with just a fright. I was planting seeds, letting the storm clouds build behind her like a slow-moving freight train. She wanted to talk? Fine. I texted back 3 words. Check your email. An hour earlier, I had drafted a little something. A full PDF labeled Summary of Accounts Terminated by B. Reynolds. Each card listed with dates, balances, and a note at the bottom. You called me weak, but you leaned on me for everything. Let's see how far you walk without my spine under your feet. No reply. No call. Just silence. I waited. Let the silence simmer. 2 hours later, her sister called me. Sarah, the only one in her family I actually liked. Brad, hey, I don't want to intrude, but Rachel just called me from a motel. She's crying. She says she can't pay the bill and Jake's card got declined. He left. I smiled without meaning to. He left. Yeah, Sarah said. She's freaking out. He just walked out after dinner when his card bounced, and she didn't have hers. She's literally stranded in a motel outside of Gatlinburg. She said she's been trying to call you for hours. What happened? What happened? Everything she built on my back just crumbled. That's what happened. I'm sorry she dragged you into this, I told Sarah calmly. But this is between me and Rachel. She made her choices. I'm just showing her what those choices cost. There was silence. Then Sarah whispered. She said something about a list? Oh, the list. Of course. That damn list. I kept my tone even. Yeah, 17 things I'm not man enough to do. So I figured I'd show her the one thing I can do perfectly. Walk away and take everything I gave her with me. Sarah didn't argue. Didn't even try to defend her. Just said quietly, you deserved better. Damn right I did. That night, I finally got a text from Rachel that didn't beg, lie, or accuse. I'm sorry. Please just help me get home. I stared at it for a long time. She was stranded, broke, alone, and Jake, her real man, had vanished like smoke. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Because the worst part of betrayal isn't the cheating. It's the insult, the mockery, the smirk behind your back while they're spending your money, living like gods on the altar of your loyalty. And I had one more gift to give her before she could even think of rebuilding. Because while she was sitting in that motel, crying over melted dreams and maxed out lies, I was crafting a letter. Not just to her, but to someone else entirely. Someone who still believed in her. Someone she needed on her side to survive what came next. Someone who wouldn't stay in her corner once they learned what I was about to expose. And the beautiful part? That person already hated Jake. The real storm hadn't even started yet. But when it did, she'd wish I only took the credit cards. By the time Rachel finally found a way back home, 3 days later, our house didn't look the same. I made sure of it. Her car was gone. My car, registered in my name. I'd parked it in a friend's garage across town and told him not to say a word. The front door lock? Changed. Garage code? Reprogrammed. Her closet? Half empty. I hadn't thrown anything out. No, I'd boxed everything neatly. Labeled it. Left it in the guest room like a gentle eviction notice. She wasn't evicted yet, but the trial had begun. I was sitting in the kitchen when I heard the Uber roll up. I didn't get up. Didn't look out the window. Just waited. The soft thud of her suitcase hitting the porch. The creak of the steps. Then the knock. Not even a confident one. A meek little tap, like she was scared of her own front door. Good. She should be. I opened it slow, holding a cup of black coffee in one hand, and didn't say a word. Rachel looked like hell. Eyes puffy. Hair matted. Hoodie that wasn't hers. Probably Jake's, which made it worse. Or better, depending on how you looked at it. Her eyes darted around the porch, then to me. Can I come in? I stepped aside without answering. Let her walk through like a guest. She set her suitcase down slowly, glanced toward the stairs, probably expecting me to scream or cry or beg. But I didn't move. I just said, guest room's ready. Your stuff's in there. Keep your noise down. I work in the morning. That hit her. Her shoulders curled in. Brad, I'm sorry. I know you're angry, but I don't. She froze. I don't want to hear sorry. Not today. Not from you. Her face tightened, like she was holding back 1,000 things, but none of them were truth. I watched her chew her bottom lip, the one she used to paint red when she wanted something from me. Now it was cracked. Raw. Like every lie was rotting her from the inside. She tried anyway. Jake, it wasn't serious. He made me feel like someone wanted me again. You've been so distant lately, Brad. You don't touch me. You don't compliment me. You made a list. I said it quiet, but it dropped like a hammer. She blinked. What? A list? Of 17 things I couldn't do. You numbered them, Rachel. You rated my masculinity and handed the trophy to some tatted-up failure who can't even afford a motel. She turned red, eyes wide. I didn't mean for you to see that, but you meant every word. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. It was a vent. A stupid, private joke with Lindsay. Except it wasn't private. And it wasn't a joke. I stood there, breathing slow, measuring every word like a blade on a whetstone. You meant it. You wanted more. More than me. You thought Jake was a king, and I was a joke. Her eyes darted to the suitcase. She wasn't here to fix anything. She was checking for damage. Like a burglar returning to the scene, wondering what the cameras caught. I made mistakes, she said finally. But you've always been so cold, Brad. So calculated. I needed someone who made me feel alive. Jake wasn't perfect, but I stepped closer. Did Jake tell you he slept with Tiffany? I asked. That hit like a slap. Rachel's face drained. What? Yeah. 2 weeks before your little cabin retreat. Tiffany texted me. Asked if you and I were still together because Jake was spending the night at hers. Left his damn gym bag on her floor. She thought you knew. Thought you had an open thing. Rachel went pale. Then flushed. Then back to pale. Thought you were smart, Rachel. But turns out, he was running you the same way you ran me. Her hands were shaking now. That's not true. She's lying. He would have told me. He didn't even pay for your motel room, Ratch. That shut her up. Her knees buckled, and she dropped onto the bar stool like the truth hit her spine. You think Jake wanted you? Jake saw free meals, free rides, free cards, and you gave it to him. Like a discount loyalty program. I leaned closer, voice low. Now you have nothing. No credit. No car. No hero. I didn't think it would go this far, she whispered. I nodded. That's the thing about falling. You never think you're going to hit the bottom. She looked up at me, eyes glassy, mouth trembling. So what now? You want me gone? Is this divorce? I didn't answer right away. I let the question sit. I wanted her to feel the uncertainty. The power shift. Not yet, I said finally. I want you to sit here for a few weeks. In this house, the house I pay for, while you work your dead-end job and eat my groceries and sleep under my roof. I want you to feel the weight of what you threw away. Her lips parted, but she said nothing. Couldn't. I'll let you know when it's over, I added. But until then, you live as a guest. You lost the title of wife the moment you handed it to someone else. I turned and walked away before she could cry. I didn't care. Not anymore. Because she thought the pain was the punishment. She didn't know that was just the beginning. And while she sat there drowning in guilt, regret, and cold silence, I was already setting the next phase in motion. Not with lawyers, not with threats, but with facts. Because there was someone else who needed to know the truth. Someone Rachel owed everything to. And the one person who could ruin her completely. It was almost poetic, really. Rachel had spent the last year painting me as the weak one, emotionless, dull, too logical for passion. But I wasn't made of ice. I was made of discipline. And if she had any idea how deep my memory ran, how sharp my attention to detail could cut, she might have begged to leave the house instead of crawling back into it. I let her stay under my roof. But I watched her like a wolf watches a wounded deer. She tried to act normal those first few days, tiptoeing around the kitchen, folding laundry that wasn't hers, cooking dinners she never used to touch. It was almost cute, like she thought she could sweep broken glass under the rug, and I wouldn't still feel it slicing through my feet. I never raised my voice. I never cursed. But the silence between us was nuclear, and it started to break her. By the third day, I caught her in the garage, staring at the empty space where her car used to sit. She didn't ask about it, just stood there, hugging her arms around her chest, as if maybe, if she stared hard enough, the betrayal would reverse itself and her shiny white Jeep would reappear like a conjuring trick. It didn't. I stood behind her and said, "Don't worry. I'll bring it back when I know you're not going to drive to Jake's place behind my back." She flinched, then turned. Her face was pale, dark circles under her eyes. "I haven't spoken to him." "Not what Tiffany said," I replied calmly. "He's been blowing up her phone ever since you got cut off. She's flattered. Thinks he's real sweet now." Rachel's mouth opened. Nothing came out. I walked past her. "Guest towels are in the hall closet, in case you plan on showering today." The cracks were showing. But I wasn't done. See, Rachel's whole adult life, her job, her insurance, even her damn phone, was built like scaffolding around my name. She never noticed. She didn't care. I handled the taxes, the rent, the cell plan, the bills. I had access. All of it. And if I wanted to burn it down with a few keystrokes, I could have. But I didn't want ashes. I wanted witnesses. Which brings us to her father. Gary. Vietnam vet. Built like a refrigerator with fists. Used to hate my guts when we started dating. Thought I was too soft. But over the years, we'd bonded. Over bourbon, old trucks, and shared frustration at Rachel's spending habits. Gary didn't trust Jake. Never had. He once told me over a bottle of wild turkey, "That boy's got empty eyes. Like he smiles, but there's no steering wheel behind it." So I knew exactly where to start. I printed the screenshots, the text thread, the hotel invoice, the summary of credit accounts in Rachel's name, the transaction history showing Jake's name linked to 2 items shipped from Best Buy, one of which was a PS5. Then I wrote a letter. Old-fashioned. Ink. Paper. Signature. "Gary, you've always been a straight shooter. So here's the truth. Your daughter cheated on me with a man who used her like a wallet. She lied, stole, and disrespected everything I built for her. I'm not asking for your judgment. I'm just giving you the facts. Because you deserve them more than she does. Brad." I folded everything into a manila envelope, sealed it, and drove it down to Gary's place myself. It was a 2-hour drive. I didn't even listen to music. Just let the anticipation pulse in my fingertips like I was gripping a fuse on a powder keg. Gary wasn't home when I arrived, but I left the envelope in his mailbox, labeled "Read Alone." By the time I got back, Rachel was sitting on the porch, hoodie again, barefoot, hair a mess. She looked like a ghost, like she'd seen something just out of frame that shook her, but she wasn't sure if it was real. "Where did you go?" she asked softly. Out. "Out where?" "To fix one of the things I'm apparently not man enough to handle." She stood. "Brad, can we talk like normal people?" You've made your point. I turned to her, slowly. This isn't about making a point. This is about balance. You knocked over my world. I'm just returning the favor. She blinked. I'm trying to fix things. No, Rachel. You're trying to escape consequences. You're not sorry you betrayed me. You're sorry you got caught. Her breath hitched. And I saw it. For the first time, shame. She whispered, "What did you do?" But I didn't answer. Because at that very moment, her phone buzzed in her back pocket. She didn't check it at first, just let it vibrate once, twice, then she pulled it out, looked, froze. And in that instant, I knew. Gary had read the letter. I watched the color drain from her face, her hands trembling as she tapped frantically at the screen. Then the tears. Real ones this time. Not the performative kind. The kind you cry when your safety net snaps. She looked up at me, and for once, didn't say a damn word. Just stood there. Shattered. Quiet. Exposed. I walked inside and shut the door behind me. And as I stood in the hallway, listening to her sob through the window, I didn't feel joy, or anger, or vengeance. I felt control. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one begging. I wasn't the one chasing. I was the storm. And this storm was only just beginning. I could hear her pacing in the driveway that night. The front porch light cast her shadow across the grass like some twisted sundial, counting down the seconds until her world collapsed completely. Every few steps, she'd pause, probably checking her phone, hoping Gary would call back and say it was all just a bad dream. He wouldn't. Not after what I sent him. Not after those screenshots. Rachel hadn't just cheated on me. She'd betrayed him, too. See, Gary wasn't just some grumpy old man with a chip on his shoulder. He was a code guy, a former Marine who raised his daughters like soldiers. He taught Rachel to look a man in the eye when she spoke, to tell the truth even if it made her bleed. He paid for her first car outright in cash. Taught her how to fish, how to defend herself, how to sharpen a blade. And now she was standing in my driveway with makeup-stained cheeks, trying to figure out how to explain Jake the hero to the one man she'd spent her whole life trying to impress. I didn't give her the satisfaction of watching me watch her. I stayed in the den, behind the curtains, sipping scotch and listening to her unravel outside. I heard her take a call. I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't have to. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't crying anymore. She was just silent, listening, getting read the riot act. And I knew right then, Gary had cut her off. Financially, emotionally, whatever line of protection she'd counted on from him was gone. Another rope snapped. Another floor gave way. I went to bed early that night. Not to sleep. To plan. I wasn't done. I had one last knife to twist before she could even think about picking herself back up. She'd spent years lying to me, but the biggest lie had always been about work. Rachel claimed she was the one who carried the house emotionally, while I was just working all the time. But what she never told me, and what I found out purely by accident, was that she hadn't been working remote for months. She'd quit. Not officially. She kept the work laptop, faked calendar invites, even took calls in the bedroom while I cooked dinner downstairs. But when I finally called her company the day after she left for her mental health retreat, their HR lady said, quote, "Rachel? Oh, she resigned back in February. Surprised you didn't know." I thanked her politely and ended the call. But inside, something snapped. She had no job, no income, no clue I knew. And while she was out riding shotgun in Jake's dumbass diesel truck, pretending to be a power couple, I was footing every bill in her life. Mortgage, groceries, subscriptions. That stupid plant service she signed up for that sent a cactus in the mail every month. So I went to the bank and pulled the nuclear option. I froze the joint account, locked down the savings, transferred my direct deposits into a brand new solo account. She couldn't touch a penny, but I wasn't cruel. I left $37.17, just enough for one gas station meal and a wake-up call. By morning, the guest room door creaked open. I was already up, sitting at the kitchen table, checking email. I didn't look at her. Rachel shuffled in wearing that same damn hoodie. Voice raspy, like her throat was sore from explaining things that couldn't be explained. Did you freeze the account? Still no eye contact. Yup. Her voice cracked. I was going to use that for groceries. You know we don't need anything. You're not we anymore. Your room and board. Her face twisted. Jesus, Brad. I said I was sorry. What more do you want from me? I want you to feel it, Rachel. The gravity of what you did. You didn't just cheat. You rewrote our entire marriage into some pathetic victim narrative where you were unloved and underappreciated. Meanwhile, I was killing myself to give you a life you could brag about. She took a seat across from me, quiet for a long beat. Then she whispered, "What's the end game here? You just gonna torture me until I walk out?" I looked her in the eyes, finally. "No, I want you to stay. I want you to live in the shell you hollowed out. Feel the cold. Hear the echo." And then I smiled, just a little. "Besides, I want you here when Jake calls." Her eyes darted to the side. "He won't." "Sure he will. Soon as he burns through the last dumb girl willing to Venmo him gas money." I stood, grabbed my keys, and walked past her. Before I opened the door, I stopped. "Oh, by the way," I added, "you've got a call at 1. Zoom links in your inbox." She blinked. "What?" I turned. "It's a job interview. At that same company you lied about working for. Turns out they're hiring for real now." "You applied for me?" "No. I applied as you. They loved your resume. I figure if you're going to pretend to work, you might as well start." She didn't respond. Just sat there, mouth slightly open, hands clenched around the edges of the chair like she was afraid she'd fall off the world completely. Because she finally realized. I wasn't just burning her bridges. I was building the road she'd have to crawl back on. One sharp stone at a time. I watched the interview from the hallway. Didn't say a word. Didn't breathe too loud. Just leaned against the wall, arms folded, as Rachel sat at the kitchen table in that same ragged hoodie she refused to let go of. Her hair tied in a lazy bun. Makeup smeared under her eyes from a half-hearted attempt to look presentable. The laptop camera caught her dead on. Behind her was the window, blinds cracked just enough to let in light, but not truth. And in front of her, a recruiter named Megan, smiling politely, unaware she was talking to a woman with no idea how to explain the last 6 months of her fake career. Rachel stumbled through the first 10 minutes. Lots of, "I was consulting freelance," and "I took time off for mental health reasons." But Megan, God bless her, wasn't born yesterday. "So, just to clarify," Megan asked, tilting her head with corporate curiosity, "you voluntarily left your role in February but kept your work devices and email accounts?" Rachel hesitated. "Yes, I mean, it was complicated. I was still helping with a few small projects. Off the books." Megan smiled. "Oh, any of those clients willing to provide references?" Rachel blinked, licked her lips. "They're confidential contracts." I almost laughed out loud. Confidential? Rachel couldn't organize a sock drawer without announcing it on Instagram. The interview wrapped up with a polite but clearly forced, "We'll be in touch." Rachel closed the laptop and just sat there, staring at the keyboard like it had personally betrayed her. I walked in, slow, deliberate. She didn't look up. "How'd it go?" She didn't answer. Did they buy the whole freelance warrior goddess thing? Still silence. I poured myself a glass of water, drank half, then leaned against the counter. "You know, I used to think you were smart," I said. "Like, dangerously clever. The way you talk circles around my parents. The way you made me believe I was lucky to have you. But now," I shook my head, "you couldn't talk your way out of a wet paper bag if I handed you scissors." She finally looked at me. Her eyes were glassy but hard. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you need it." "No," she snapped. "You want this. You want to watch me crawl. You want to sit on your damn throne and punish me for not worshiping you the way you think I should have." I stared at her for a long second. "No, Rachel. I want you to wake up. I want you to feel the weight of what real accountability looks like. Because every time you've screwed up in your life, someone has cushioned the fall. Your dad, your sister, me. But this time, you don't get pillows. You get concrete." She stood, knocking the chair back. "So what? You're going to keep me here? Trap me until I break." "You're free to go anytime," I said calmly. "Doors aren't locked. But leave, and you leave with nothing. No car. No job. No savings. No fallback." She went quiet. She knew I wasn't bluffing, because she'd checked her accounts. And all she saw was $37.17 and a closed line of credit at every institution that used to worship her signature. She stormed off, slammed the guest room door. I didn't chase her. I had bigger plans. Because while Rachel wrestled with survival, I was organizing something far more permanent. The truth, not just to Gary, but to everyone. See, Rachel had a reputation. Online, at least. She built this fake empire on Instagram, branded herself as a wellness entrepreneur with cute quotes, latte art, and filtered selfies at overpriced brunch spots I paid for. She had a following. Nothing viral, but enough. Women who called her inspiring. Brands that sent her free crap for exposure. People who didn't know her, but believed her. Believed in the curated fairy tale. Believed she was strong, independent, ethical. So I gathered receipts. Dozens. Screenshots of Jake's Venmo requests. $87. Hotel split, smiley face. $42, steaks plus bottle wine glass. $120. Her nails, she wanted the fancy ones LOL. Photos from her camera roll, backed up to our shared cloud she forgot existed. One showed her in our bed. With Jake. Shirtless. Flexing like a moron while she did that stupid pout she thought looked sexy. Date stamped. Location tagged. I had the full story. And more importantly, I had proof. But I didn't want revenge in a rush. I wanted it to bleed. So I scheduled a post. Not on her feed. No. On a private blog she linked in her bio. The one where she wrote long, motivational captions about healing from past pain and loving without limits. I logged in using the password she reused for everything. Self-Love 88. I drafted the post as her. Titled it, What I've Hidden and What I've Lost. The body of the post was cold, brutal, honest. Every affair, every lie, every dollar stolen, every friend manipulated. I included the screenshots, the photos, the receipts, and at the bottom, a note. I pretended to be a woman of value, but all I ever did was borrow worth from others, especially the man I betrayed. I don't expect forgiveness, just consequences. I scheduled it for 1 week later. If she tried to run, tried to block me, move out, scream to the world that I was some psycho ex, I could release it early. And if she stayed, if she faced it, I might cancel the post. Might. But Rachel didn't know about the post. Not yet. That night, she emerged from her room for dinner. No hoodie, fresh clothes, hair brushed, a forkful of humility in her posture. I've been looking at jobs, she said quietly. I'll take anything. I need to start over. I nodded slowly. That's good. She looked up. You're not going to sabotage me, are you? I gave her a soft smile. One I knew would haunt her. I don't need to sabotage you, Rachel. You already did it to yourself. She didn't touch her food. Didn't speak again that night. Because somewhere, in her gut, I think she knew. There was one more wave coming. And it would be the one that dragged her under. The next morning, she left the house dressed like she was going to church and court at the same time. Hair neat, navy blouse, modest skirt, no lipstick. Just mascara. Just enough to seem awake, not alive. She told me she had a job interview at a call center. Didn't ask for a ride. Didn't take an Uber. She walked. 2 miles. In flats. In June. I watched from the upstairs window, coffee in hand, as she moved like a ghost down the sidewalk. Back straight, arms rigid at her sides like every muscle in her body was holding in a scream. I didn't feel pity. Not because I was heartless. Because this was what truth looked like. Raw, ugly, humbling. She had lived in theater for years. Spinning scenes, dressing up sin in silk, making tragedy look like an Instagram story with a pastel filter and a self-help quote slapped on top. But now the costume was off. Now, she was naked in the world she helped destroy. She came home 4 hours later. Blisters on her heels. Silence in her throat. She didn't speak, didn't explain how the interview went. Just nodded toward me, like she was checking in with the warden. I let her pass. She didn't know that every step she took was watched. Not out of paranoia, out of precision. Because I'd spent the last 3 days contacting every brand she'd ever partnered with. The little wellness tea company from Oregon. The fake organic skincare startup. Even the dog collar brand that thought she was some empowered modern woman, walking her beagle named Scout. All of them got the same package from me. Screenshots. Receipts. The blog post. Unscheduled, but included. With a note. Before you send out any more PR packages, make sure you know who you're sending them to. She doesn't stand for what you think she does. I have no demands. I just believe in honesty. 3 replied the same day. 2 said they were reviewing their affiliate relationships. 1 just replied, "Holy shit." No one defended her. I didn't tell Rachel. Not yet. I wanted her to feel the shift in the air before she knew where the wind was coming from. That night, her phone buzzed during dinner. She flinched like it bit her. Checked it. Eyes went wide. Then again. And again. She locked the screen. Face pale. I didn't ask. She didn't offer. But I knew what was happening. The brands were dropping her. Quietly. Discreetly. As they always do. In her world, silence was lethal. She pushed her plate away. "You need anything?" I asked. She shook her head, stood, and left the table. But halfway up the stairs, she paused. Didn't turn around. "Was it you?" she asked. I waited. Let the silence hang. Was what me? Her voice cracked. "They're pulling out. Dropping me. The brands. They all just disappeared." I took a sip of wine. Shrugged. "Maybe they finally saw you. Not the version you sell." She turned her face slightly, enough that I could see the tension in her jaw. "I didn't ask you to destroy my life." I smiled, slow and cruel. "No, but you invited me to watch when you did it yourself." She didn't say another word. Didn't come back down the rest of the night. And me? I opened the private blog dashboard and hovered over the post titled, "What I've Hidden and What I've Lost." Still unscheduled. Still waiting. Still loaded. I wasn't sure yet if I'd publish it. I wanted her to wonder. To imagine the worst version of herself out there for the world to dissect. Because the waiting was where the real punishment lived. But Rachel wasn't just falling. She was fading. And I knew from the way she walked, slow and deliberate now, that her final defense was collapsing. Denial. That was when I knew it was time to go one layer deeper. See, she still thought this was about her. Her guilt. Her image. Her consequences. But she forgot what she did to me. How many nights I stayed late at work to cover her messes. How many holidays I spent eating silence because she wasn't feeling festive. How many times I defended her to people who warned me. And worst of all, how long I believed I was the problem. So I made one final call. To her boss. Her old one. From the job she ghosted in February. I asked for 5 minutes. He gave me 10. And when I was done explaining, I emailed him the resignation letter she never turned in. The laptop she never returned. The company account she still used to make herself look employed. His last words before hanging up? "Thanks for letting us know. We'll be in touch." With her. Click. By midnight, I heard her crying. Not sobbing. Wailing. A deep, primal sound that belongs to someone who's officially run out of rope. She still didn't know about the post. Still didn't know who else I was about to bring into the light. Because one person had remained silent this entire time. One person who'd once loved her more than I ever could. Who believed in her like a religion. Who would never forgive what she'd done. And that person was sitting just 4 hours away. Waiting. Watching. Already halfway through the evidence I'd sent 3 days ago. Her mother. The house felt empty even when she was still in it. I had always thought the hardest part of betrayal was the anger. The confrontation. The blow-up. The dramatic end that you see in movies. The screaming. The tearing of shirts. The throwing of dishes. But no, that wasn't it. The worst part, the real punishment, was the silence. Rachel hadn't said a word to me all morning. Not since her phone had blown up with notifications, messages from brands, friends, people she thought she could rely on. It was like she had retreated into herself. I wasn't sure if she was still angry or if she was just defeated. Either way, I didn't care. She was no longer the center of my world. I didn't need to say anything either. Everything I'd done, everything that had unfolded, was speaking loud enough. By the time she finally came downstairs, the sun was low, casting a red glow through the kitchen window. I had already set the table for one. I wasn't hungry, but I liked the ritual. It gave me something to do while I waited for the next part of my plan to unfold. She walked in quietly, her eyes still red and swollen. I didn't look up. I just kept stirring the pot of soup, the hum of the spoon against the metal the only sound between us. The tension had thickened the air into something that was almost unbearable, but neither of us was going to make the first move. I called my mom. Rachel said softly, as if testing the waters. I didn't respond. I just kept stirring. She wants to talk to you, she added, her voice small. I knew exactly what that meant. Her mother was the last person who still believed in the fairy tale. The last person who still thought Rachel could somehow fix this, that everything would go back to normal if she just said the right thing. Rachel moved to the counter and sat down. I could hear the sharp intake of her breath as she picked up her phone. She stared at the screen for a moment, clearly processing. And then, with a hesitant hand, she set the phone down on the counter. It was a message from her mother. I'm coming over. I think it's time we all sit down and talk. This can't go on any longer. I felt a small smile tug at the corner of my mouth. Rachel hadn't told her mother a damn thing, not the real truth. She had painted me as the villain, the cold, distant husband who never understood her. But her mother had no idea what was coming. No clue how deep the deception ran. I'm not going to talk to her until I'm ready, I said, still not looking up from the soup. Rachel's gaze shot up. Her voice cracked, a note of desperation creeping in. You're not going to make things harder, are you? You know how she'll react, Brad. This isn't just about us anymore. I finally turned to look at her. You want me to play nice with her? After everything you've done? After the lies, the affair, the disrespect? You've made it clear that nothing matters but what you want, Rachel. So forgive me if I don't exactly bend over backwards to fix things. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She couldn't even defend herself anymore. Not with what I'd already done. Not with the truth hanging over her like a shadow. Her phone buzzed again. This time, I didn't look away. I could see her mother's name on the screen. Call her, I said, my tone firm. Let's get this over with. Rachel hesitated, then picked up the phone and swiped the screen. I could hear her mother's voice, tinny and muffled through the speaker, but I didn't need to hear it clearly to know exactly what was happening. Mom, listen, Rachel started, but her mother's voice cut through, loud and sharp. What's going on, Rachel? Her mother demanded. You told me everything was fine. Why am I hearing all these things from other people? Why are there emails, texts, and then there's Brad? Why the hell did you lie to me? I saw Rachel's face fall. She wasn't prepared for this. Her mother wasn't buying her story, and I could hear the disbelief and hurt in her voice, even from where I was standing. You didn't tell me the truth, Rachel. What the hell happened to us? To you? Rachel sat in silence, unable to answer. The phone was shaking in her hand, but she didn't speak. And that silence, longer than any silence we had shared over the last few days, was more deafening than anything I had ever heard in my life. Rachel, I trusted you. I defended you. I believed you were trying to make things work, but now, after everything I'm hearing, do you honestly expect me to sit here and watch you ruin yourself? She hung up without saying goodbye. It wasn't just a call. It was the end of the life Rachel had been living with her mother. And when I finally spoke, my voice was as cold as the space between us. You're not going to be able to crawl out of this, Rachel. Not now. Not when everything's out there. Not when the people you've used and lied to finally realize that you're not the person you sold them. Rachel stood up abruptly, pushing the chair back so hard that it tipped over and hit the floor with a loud crash. She ran toward the door, but I didn't stop her. I knew exactly what was about to happen next. She ran to the car. The same car I had taken the keys to days ago. But when she turned the engine on and revved it to life, I didn't feel relief. I felt something else. Something worse. I watched her drive off. It was almost poetic, like she was running away from the very thing that was going to bring her back. Her consequences. I didn't call her. I didn't follow her. I didn't care enough to see where she went. I just sat there, looking at the spilled soup, letting it get cold on the counter. I had already won, and the only thing left was watching her realize what it felt like to be the last one standing. And then, it was time to send the letter. The letter was sealed and ready. I had spent hours crafting it, every word deliberate, every sentence carefully chosen to ensure the final blow landed with precision. But even as I held it in my hand, I couldn't help but feel a small twist of satisfaction in the back of my mind. I knew this would be the final piece of the puzzle. It wasn't just about exposing Rachel to her family or to the brands that had turned their backs on her. It wasn't even about revenge anymore. No, this letter would serve as something much more important. It was the catalyst that would force her to face everything. I had thought about sending it directly to her mother, but I wasn't sure Rachel's mother would truly grasp the weight of what had happened. She had always been the type to make excuses for her daughter, to sweep things under the rug for the sake of family peace. No, this letter needed to go to someone who could truly understand the depth of Rachel's betrayal, someone who would take no excuses. And so I sent it to her father, Gary. I knew he wouldn't shy away from the truth. Gary had been a Marine, a man of honor. He'd fought for his country, for his family, and I had no doubt that when he read this letter, he would see the exact same thing I had seen, a woman who had completely discarded her integrity, her marriage, and the man who had stood by her for years. I wasn't expecting Gary to call me right away. It was a Saturday, and I knew that he probably needed time to process. But that didn't stop the clock from ticking. Every minute that passed felt like a small victory, another piece of Rachel's world falling away, another truth being uncovered. I had no idea how long it would take, but I could already feel the endgame approaching. I had prepared for this moment, planned every detail, even if it wasn't exactly how I had imagined. It wasn't the public spectacle of a courtroom battle, the heated argument where we both aired our dirty laundry. No, this was far more effective. It was a quiet unraveling. I waited. Later that evening, Rachel came back to the house. She didn't even knock. The door creaked open, and she stepped inside like she owned the place, but the air between us was thick with tension. Her eyes were red again, her hand shaking slightly as she stepped across the threshold. She looked a little different than when she had left that afternoon. Weary, broken, even. For a brief moment, I almost felt sorry for her. But then I reminded myself, she didn't deserve my pity. Not anymore. I was still sitting at the table, staring at the same unfinished soup that had cooled hours ago. The silence stretched between us, heavy and oppressive, until she finally spoke. "Where's my dad?" Her voice was low, almost afraid. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I watched her face. There was a flicker of something in her eyes, a kind of dread that only made me feel more certain about the path I had chosen. "I don't know, Rachel. Maybe you should call him. Maybe he has some things he wants to say to you." She stood frozen for a moment, then hurried to the phone in the corner, dialing furiously, her breath coming in sharp, quick gasps. She was nervous, I could tell, but she wouldn't admit it, not to me, not to herself. The phone rang a few times before Gary's gruff voice came through the speaker. "Rachel," he said, his tone cool, clipped. "What's going on? Why didn't you tell me the truth?" Her face drained of color. The phone nearly slipped from her grasp. I could hear her scrambling for words, but they were all wrong. She stuttered, tried to explain, but Gary wasn't having it. "I know everything, Rachel. I know about Jake. I know about the credit cards. I know what you've been doing behind Brad's back. And I've been blindsided by your lies." Her face twisted in confusion and disbelief. She spoke faster now, pleading, her voice rising with desperation. "Dad, I didn't. Don't you dare try to play that game with me. I'm not your partner, Rachel. I'm your father. And I won't stand by while you destroy everything I've taught you. I warned you about this. I told you to be careful, but you didn't listen." Rachel's face crumpled, her shoulders shaking with the weight of the words she couldn't deny anymore. Gary's voice was louder now. "You're going to fix this. Not for me. Not for anyone else. But for yourself. You need to take responsibility for the mess you made. Don't expect me to clean it up. Don't even think about it." There was a long pause. I could hear the faint sound of Rachel sniffling, trying to hold it together. Finally, Gary spoke again. His voice was softer, but the resolve was still there. "You've got a long road ahead of you, Rachel. And it's not going to be easy. You lost Brad, you lost me, and you're going to lose everyone else who's been pretending you could fix this. Don't come back here until you've figured out what you were going to do." The line went dead. Rachel stared at the phone in her hand like it was a live grenade. The silence between us was almost deafening, and I didn't need to say anything. She already knew what had happened. Gary had finally seen her for who she really was, and he was done pretending. Rachel sank into the chair across from me, burying her face in her hands. She didn't cry. Not yet. She was too proud for that. But I could see it in her eyes. She was finished. "You're done running, Rachel. This is it," I said quietly, my voice steady, but with the kind of finality that she hadn't heard from me in years. And that was the truth. She had lost everything. Gary had already started the process of letting her go. The rest of the world would follow. All I had to do now was wait for the final curtain to fall. It was raining the night Rachel finally broke. Not the light kind of rain that softens the edges of the world. No. This was a violent, relentless downpour, the kind that pounds the roof like a warning, soaks through your clothes in seconds, and makes the whole sky feel like it's crashing down around you. She was on the porch when it started. I hadn't seen her go out. I only noticed because the light through the kitchen window had shifted. The thunder rolled low and hard, and suddenly she was there, standing in the open doorway, barefoot, arms crossed, her hoodie clinging to her like it was trying to hold her together. I stayed seated at the table. Same chair. Same cup of untouched black coffee. Same silence. She didn't move for a while. Just stared out into the storm like she was waiting for lightning to strike her out of mercy. Then, without a word, she stepped out into it. I watched her walk into the rain and lower herself onto the top step of the porch, knees pulled to her chest. No umbrella. No shoes. No dignity left to protect. It was time. I stood, walked to the door, and leaned against the frame. She didn't turn around. I sent the blog post, I said. A long pause. I figured. Her voice was barely audible under the pounding rain. Her shoulders didn't flinch. She just kept staring ahead, like the driveway might somehow open up and swallow her whole. It's up now. Anyone who ever followed you, they'll know. Everything. Another silence. Then, slowly, she nodded. I deserve it. It caught me off guard, that honesty. The tone wasn't angry or resentful. It was the sound of someone whose delusion had finally cracked. She wasn't defending herself anymore. She wasn't pretending. She was sitting in the ruins of her own making, letting the flood come. I stepped outside and stood beside her, not close, just near enough to let the moment breathe. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her hoodie, but it was useless. The rain had washed away the last of the makeup, the lies, the curated image. All that was left was her. Rachel. Just Rachel. I lied to you, she said. I lied to everyone, but mostly to myself. I thought I deserved more, that I was missing something. You weren't, I said. You had everything, and you threw it off a cliff to see if it would fly. She looked up at me, and for the first time in months, there was no venom in her eyes. No mask. Just devastation. Do you hate me? I didn't answer right away. I thought about all the nights I'd spent wondering where she was. The money she siphoned away. The way she smirked at Jake's dumb jokes while I sat at the other end of the table, pretending not to notice her phone lighting up under the napkin. I thought about the 17 things she said I wasn't man enough to do, and how I'd quietly, methodically done every single one since she texted that list by mistake. No, I said finally. I don't hate you. She blinked. I pity you. That landed. I saw it. Not like a slap, but like a mirror. I'm leaving in the morning, I continued. The house is mine. The car's mine. You'll have 3 weeks to get your things and find somewhere else to go. I've already filed. You'll be served on Monday. Her breath caught, but she didn't beg. She just nodded. I understand. I almost walked away then, but something made me stop. Maybe it was mercy. Maybe I needed to say it out loud, one last time, for both of us. I loved you, I said. She looked up. I really loved you. And all I ever wanted was for you to love me back. Not with words. With respect. But you couldn't do it. You didn't want a husband. You wanted a mirror. Someone who made you feel prettier. Smarter. Bigger. She covered her mouth with her hand as her body finally began to shake. You didn't cheat because you were lonely, I said. You cheated because you were bored. Because you thought you could do better. And now you've got Jake's shadow and an empty inbox full of burned bridges. Thunder cracked in the distance. The wind shifted. She wept quietly. No theatrics. No performance. Just tears mixing with rain. I stepped back inside, closed the door, and sat down. The storm rolled on outside like it had been waiting for this moment too. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't need to. I had already rested in clarity for weeks. The next morning, the sun was out. I loaded my bags into the car without speaking. Left the key on the counter. When I passed the guest room, the door was open. She was gone. No note. No goodbye. Just silence. And that was enough. Because the truth? I didn't want an apology. I didn't want redemption. I just wanted freedom. And I had earned it. Every damn inch.